Nuton and Lola meet Pinocchio and the star whale. Good evening, little explorer. Are you tucked in tight? Because tonight, Nuton, Lola, and Wuity are about to drift into an ocean of dreams, where stars swim and whales shimmer like rainbows. In the warm kitchen of their Hudson Valley home, the smell of banana muffins filled the air. Outside, the trees swayed under a sleepy golden sunset. Nuton sat at the table, kicking his little feet under his chair, his tongue poking out of the corner of his mouth. He was scribbling a drawing, a submarine shaped like a giant donut, with sprinkles. Lola sat across from him, calmly gluing seashells to a poster for her school project. Meanwhile, Wuity floated above, wearing a toy sailor's hat tilted crookedly on his starry head. "Nuton," Lola said, peeking at his drawing, "this is supposed to be your project for Oceans of Imagination. Where's the real ocean?" "It's an imaginary ocean," Nuton protested, waving his crayon. "And my donut submarine can find treasure." Wuity did a loop-de-loop in agreement, his hat spinning like a top. "But the assignment," Lola said patiently, "is to bring back something real, like a sea plant or a shell or a story." Nuton dropped his crayon dramatically. "I don't want a boring shell. I want a real ocean adventure." Wuity sparkled a little brighter. And just like that, ding, an idea bloomed. Later that evening, while exploring the attic for something oceany, Wuity floated past an old wooden chest tucked beneath a quilt. As Wuity brushed it with a star hand, the chest gave a little click. Inside, an old, crinkly map with silver threads woven through it, showing oceans, currents, and a mysterious symbol glowing faintly like a star. A tattered book titled "Tales from the Deep, Myths of the Sea." Nuton gasped. "Treasure." He flipped to the last page, and there it was, a faded painting of a boy riding a gigantic whale across a glittering, star-filled sea. The boy had bright wooden joints and the tiniest little nose. "That's Pinocchio!" Nuton squeaked. Lola peered over his shoulder. "It's probably just a story." Nuton's eyes gleamed. "Or maybe an invitation." The map in his lap shimmered suddenly, a little pulse of silver light zipping across the paper like a wink. The three of them stared at each other. Wuity twirled in excited circles, and Nuton grinned so wide it nearly split his face. "Let's go find it." Downstairs in the garden shed, Wuity bobbed in the air, concentrating very, very hard. Poof! With a pop of sparkle, Wuity transformed into a miniature submarine. Round and shiny, shaped like a squishy teardrop with blinking lights and bubble windows. Nuton clapped. "It's perfect!" Lola, holding a backpack full of snacks, muttered, "I hope it's waterproof." With a joyful squeak, Wuity opened a hatch. They climbed inside, snuggled among the cozy cushions, and Nuton carefully unfolded the silver-threaded map. The oceans glowed softly. The submarine floated up through the greenhouse roof, through the evening mist, into the dreamy velvet night, and down, down, down into the real ocean, where adventure waited just beyond the horizon. At first, everything was peaceful. Fish glittered past. Coral gardens swayed. The whole world was a sleepy symphony of blues and greens. Then, Wuity's dashboard blinked. Whirl. A tiny whirlpool formed ahead, no bigger than a dinner plate. But it sparkled. Purple, pink, silver, gold. It shimmered like a dream melting into a sunrise. "It's beautiful," Lola whispered. Nuton leaned closer. "It's a portal. I know it." The whirlpool grew, twisting, twinkling, humming a sound like a lullaby sung by the stars. Without thinking, without fear, Nuton nudged the steering lever forward. And together, Wuity, Lola, and Nuton zoomed toward the sparkling swirl. The submarine spun once, twice. The colors folded around them like warm velvet. And then, pop, they were gone. Gone into the current of a story that hadn't been told yet. The moment they tumbled through the sparkling whirlpool, everything changed. The little submarine floated into a breathtaking underwater realm. Golden light filtered down in glittery beams, turning the ocean into a rippling wonderland. All around them, towering mushroom forests stretched toward the surface. Each mushroom cap glowed with soft, magical colors. Blue like morning, purple like twilight, pink like the inside of a shell. Tiny fish, their scales flashing every color of the rainbow, darted between the glowing stems. In the distance, mountains of shimmering crystals rose from the seafloor, catching the light and throwing it in 1,000 dancing directions. "Whoa," Nuton breathed, pressing his nose against the glass. Wuity spun slowly in the cockpit, blinking dreamily at the colors. Even Lola, who usually kept her cool, whispered, "It's like a dream underwater." Outside, gentle creatures floated by, giant butterfly turtles with silver fins and cloud-like puffish that drifted lazily past fields of swaying sea flowers. Nuton practically buzzed with excitement. "We have to explore! There's gotta be treasure here!" Lola chuckled. "Or seaweed in your hair." Nuton made a silly face. Wuity beamed, and with a soft whir, the little submarine opened a hatch. Tiny bubbles floated in, tickling their noses. It was time to dive into the kingdom. They climbed out into the glowing water, where the magic let them breathe as easily as if they were walking through air. Wuity, ever helpful, turned into a little floaty globe that hovered over their heads, shining a soft guide light. Nearby, a moonlight turtle paddled by, its shell glowing like a full moon. Nuton waved his arms wildly. "Wait, maybe we can ride it." Before Lola could say anything, Nuton had already swum over and gently climbed onto the turtle's back. The turtle gave a sleepy blink, then slowly turned, carrying Nuton, Lola, and Wuity deeper into the mushroom forest. As they rode, tiny bubble cities floated above the coral hills. The bubbles shimmered in soft blues and silvers, and inside, teeny luminescent creatures waved hello. Nuton waved back with both hands, nearly slipping off the turtle. "Nuton, hold on!" Lola called, laughing. Deeper they floated, through curtains of sparkling sea flowers that sang soft, chiming melodies when the current brushed them. Everywhere, it felt like the ocean was whispering. Magic lives where kindness swims. Just when Nuton leaned back with a sigh, thinking nothing could be more beautiful, Wuity blinked rapidly. The water around them trembled gently. Far, far ahead, something huge stirred. At first, it looked like a drifting island. Then, it moved. A great, round shape gliding through the water with the slow, majestic grace of a dream. The creature's skin shimmered dark navy, deep as night, and scattered across it were sparkling stars, little galaxies turning slowly. A whale, but not just any whale. A starry sky whale. Its giant fins swept wide like wings. Its eyes glowed like moons. And it was swimming right toward them. "Is it friendly?" Nuton squeaked. The whale opened its great mouth. Not roaring, not angry, but like a yawn, wide and peaceful, except the suction pulled at them like a strong, warm breeze. "We're gonna get swallowed," Nuton squealed, grabbing onto Lola. Lola grabbed onto Wuity, and Wuity blinked and quickly spun into a plastic bubble, wrapping them all inside a soft, cushiony sphere. The whale's pull grew stronger. Inside their bubble, they tumbled and spun, until with a whoosh, they passed through the whale's glowing lips and into a whole new world inside. At first, everything was velvet darkness. Then, one by one, tiny stars inside the whale blinked on. pink stars, gold stars, green and blue and lilac stars. They formed moving pictures in the dark. One looked like a giant sea flower dancing. One looked like a school of laughing dolphins. One even looked like Wuity wearing a pirate hat. Nuton's eyes were wide with wonder. Lola's mouth curved into a small, amazed smile. "This whale," Lola whispered, "is dreaming." Wuity floated up gently, spinning like a happy planet. Nuton giggled. "Best adventure ever!" But then, in the distance, they saw a tiny flickering lantern light, and beside it, a small broken boat, and sitting on the boat, waving warmly, a wooden boy with a bright smile, and an old man with kind, crinkly eyes. "Is that," Nuton breathed. "Pinocchio and Geppetto," Lola said softly. Wuity twinkled in agreement. It seemed their adventure was only just beginning. The bubble carrying Nuton, Lola, and Wuity floated closer and closer to the broken wooden boat resting inside the whale's glowing belly. Up close, the boat looked weathered but cozy, with a tiny flickering lantern swinging from its mast. On a little crate sat Pinocchio, carved wooden arms and legs, but eyes sparkling with real light. Beside him, Geppetto, the old toy maker, carefully patched a sail with pieces of stitched cloth. When they saw Nuton, Lola, and Wuity approach, Pinocchio hopped up and waved wildly. "Visitors!" Pinocchio chirped. "Real ones!" Geppetto chuckled warmly. "Come, friends, there's always room in our little home." The bubble popped softly around them as they landed on the boat. Everything smelled faintly of sweet cedarwood and sea salt dreams. Nuton looked around, wide-eyed. "Are you really Pinocchio?" Pinocchio nodded proudly, tapping his wooden chest. "And you're Geppetto, the toy maker," Lola added, her voice hushed in awe. Geppetto smiled kindly, his wrinkles deepening like happy rivers. "We are, but we've been living here a while now. Ever since," his voice grew softer, "we got swallowed up." As they sat around the tiny lantern, warm and glowing, Pinocchio began to tell his story. "I wasn't always like this," Pinocchio said, tapping his wooden chest. "Once I was just a piece of wood, a talking log really, until Geppetto, my papa, carved me into a boy." Geppetto chuckled, his eyes crinkling, and a lively boy he was. "I wanted to be real," Pinocchio said, his voice soft. "But I made a lot of mistakes. I told lies that made my nose grow long. I trusted the wrong people, and I even ran away from home." Nuton gasped a little. Wuity floated closer, blinking sadly. But every mistake taught me something, Pinocchio continued. About bravery, about kindness, about listening to those who love you. He smiled. And because of that, the blue fairy finally turned me into a real boy. Wuity spun in a happy little circle. Nuton grinned. "That's amazing!" But, Pinocchio added, our adventures didn't end there. He leaned closer, voice dropping to a whisper. "One day, Papa Geppetto and I went out to sea to find a lost treasure. Something that could help our village. But a terrible storm came, and a great whale appeared, bigger than a castle." Lola's eyes grew round. "The whale swallowed us whole," Pinocchio said, sweeping his arms wide. "And we ended up here." Geppetto nodded, his face both sad and grateful. "It's been a peaceful place, full of dreams and wonders." Pinocchio pointed up at the shimmering stars overhead. "But lately the dreams have started to fade. The whale's heart, powered by wishes and kindness, is growing weak." Nuton squeezed Lola's hand. "What happens if the dreams disappear?" he whispered. Pinocchio's voice softened. "Then we'll all be trapped, and the dreams of many others might fade too." The little lantern between them flickered uncertainly, like a heartbeat pausing. Nuton sat up straighter, determination flashing in his eyes. "Then we'll save it," he said. Lola nodded firmly. "And we'll do it together." The little lantern wavered, its light curling like a sleepy sigh. Wuity floated up, blinking in concern. Nuton frowned. "How do we help? We have to help." Geppetto pointed toward the far end of the whale's belly, where a glittery mist swirled like a hidden doorway. "There are 3 dream keys hidden deep in the whale's heart," Geppetto said. "They guard the flow of wishes. Without them, the magic leaks away." Pinocchio bounced on his heels. "We tried finding them before, but it's tricky. You need brains, courage, and, well, a little sparkle." Nuton grinned. "Good thing we brought sparkle." He nudged Wuity, who blinked proudly. Lola straightened. "All right, let's find the dream keys." "Be careful," Geppetto warned. "The whale's magic will test you. It listens to your heart." "And," Pinocchio added, "some mischievous creatures live in here too." Nuton leaned forward, eyes shining. "This is going to be amazing." Lola sighed with a half smile. "Or exhausting." Either way, their adventure had truly begun. They packed tiny satchels, a little sandwich from Geppetto, a glow stick from Wuity, a tiny paper boat charm from Pinocchio, The mist at the end of the boat shimmered again, like a beckoning curtain. Hand in hand, Nuton, Lola, and Wuity stepped into the mist, ready to face the whale's secret world of dreams. Behind them, the tiny boat and its warm lantern light grew smaller and smaller, until it was just a comforting speck, urging them forward, toward the dream keys, toward saving the whale, toward saving all the wishes left to be dreamed. The little lantern on the sandy floor fluttered once, then twice. From its flame, a map bloomed, shimmering across the ground like spilled golden water. Tiny pictures wobbled into view: a crystal river, a thundering drum, and a swirling portal made of light. Pinocchio leaned in. The whale's dreams create places inside it, but its heart, where all dreams are born, is fading. Lola traced a glowing line with her fingertip. "We have to reach the heart of stars," she whispered. Nuton pumped his fists. "An adventure inside a whale! How cool is this?" Wuity spun excitedly, scattering tiny sparkle bubbles. Following the path, they reached a river, not of water, but of liquid glass, rippling with every sound they made. A sign popped up from nowhere. "Cross only with laughter. Sadness will sink you." Nuton bounced on his toes. "That's easy. I'm hilarious." He marched onto the crystal surface. Splash! Down he went, up to his knees in chilly sparkle water. "Oops!" Lola snorted. Wuity's floated closer and chirped like tiny bells. Pinocchio covered his mouth to keep from laughing too. Nuton made a face, puffing out his cheeks like a wobbly frog. Everyone burst into giggles. The river shivered, then smoothed under their feet, becoming solid as stone. Next, they reached a bridge made of giant floating drums. Each drum boomed a low note when touched. A riddle hovered above. "Step to the beat of kindness. Angry feet will fall." Nuton grinned. "I'll tap dance across." He stomped onto the first drum. Boom! He nearly flipped backward into the echoing canyon below. "Nuton!" Lola scolded, pulling him upright. Blushing, Nuton slowed down. He listened to the soft, steady beat of the whale's dream. Bum, bum, bum. Gentle steps, careful taps. Together, one kindness at a time, they crossed the bridge. Past the bridge was a floating garden, sprouting wild, impossible plants. Candy cane trees, floating feather bushes, flowers that giggled when brushed. At the center stood a giant empty frame on a vine wall. Above it shimmered the words, paint with your heart, not your hands. A single golden paintbrush floated nearby. Nuton bit his lip. I'm not the best artist. Lola rested a hand on his shoulder. Just draw what's in your heart. Nuton closed his eyes. He thought of happiness, of the thing make him smile, of trying, even when it was messy. He waved his hand. Swish. In the frame appeared a wild, silly masterpiece. A wobbly rainbow turtle wearing a pirate hat, riding a jelly bean. Lola and Wuity laughed in pure delight. The vines parted, opening the path forward. Finally, they stood before a huge door made of woven starlight, pulsing faintly like a sleeping heart. The door had no handle. Instead, tiny star letters appeared. Only those who believe in their own light may pass. Nuton looked at his hands. Small, a little clumsy, not magical, but full of trying, full of hope. He placed his palm against the stars. Lola did too. Wuity shimmered and blinked bravely. Pinocchio added his hand, wooden and warm. The door shivered, then swung open in a river of music. Inside was a swirling galaxy, a soft, endless sky where dreams began and were reborn. And in the center, pulsing faintly, was the whale's heart, a tiny, tired star, waiting. The whale's heart floated before them, a trembling star, tired and pale. Nuton stared at it, feeling a tug deep in his own chest. It's lonely, he whispered. Wuity floated up and blinked sadly, as if hearing the heart's tiny song. Lola bent close. It needs more than magic, she said softly. It needs a wish. Not the kind you make when you see a shooting star. Not the kind you whisper when you blow out birthday candles. A wish that comes from believing, not just wanting. Nuton squeezed his eyes shut. In his mind he wished, I wish for kindness to shine even in dark places. I wish for silly laughter to echo even inside a whale. I wish for dreams to always find their way home. He opened his eyes and placed his hand on the heart. The heart pulsed. Once, twice. Then it bloomed into a swirl of gold and silver stardust. The whale's belly filled with soft light, like a dawn inside an ocean dream. Wuity spun loops of joy in the glowing mist. Lola wiped her eyes. Pinocchio grinned. You did it! A portal bloomed ahead, shaped like a swirling conch shell. Through it, Nuton saw home. Hudson Valley, glowing under a gentle sunset. The starry whale sang, a low, lovely sound that tickled their toes. Pinocchio and Geppetto waved goodbye, their boat now floating on a river of stars inside the whale. "Will we meet again?" Nuton asked, a little catch in his voice. Pinocchio winked. "As long as you keep believing in good hearts and silly dreams, we're never far." Lola placed a hand on Nuton's shoulder. "Time to go home, little explorer." Hand in hand, with Wuity sparkling ahead like a baby comet, they stepped through the portal. Splash! They popped back onto their bubble submarine, which bobbed gently in a perfectly normal, sunny sea. The weird, starry whirlpool was gone. Only the gentle sound of seagulls filled the air. Nuton wiped his face and laughed, full and free. Wuity spun around him like a twinkling scarf. Lola stretched and looked up at the blue sky. "Maybe," she said, smiling sideways at Nuton, "we'll save the world again tomorrow." Nuton grinned. "Only after lunch." They floated peacefully, the warm sun on their faces, while deep below, a flash of sparkling light winked from the depths. A quiet thank you from the whale. And now, dear dreamer, as Nuton, Lola, and Wuity drifted home across gentle golden waves, as the magical whale glided far beneath in the starlit sea, and as Pinocchio and Geppetto sailed on their little boat inside dreams, remember, you are never too small to heal something big. Your kindness and creativity can make stars shine brighter. Every silly wish and every honest dream has a home inside the universe. Good night, little explorer. Sleep well, and let your dreams sail high and free, just like a whale in a sky of stars. Bedtime Stories with Nuton and Lola. Good evening, sweet listener. Are you cozy under your covers? Is your pillow fluffed just right? Then tiptoe closer, because tonight Nuton and Lola find themselves in a tale full of whispers, music, and a very important promise. The stars blinked over Hudson Valley. Inside the cozy glow of their room, Nuton sat cross-legged, puffing into a tiny plastic flute. He squeaked with strange and funny sounds. He laughed, "My music like a duck in a shoebox." Lola, holding her own music sheet, sighed. You're skipping all the quiet parts, Nuton. The rests are as important as the notes. I don't want quiet. I want victory. I want to play better than everyone tomorrow. Wuity, balancing on a stack of pillows, raised its own shiny silver flute and played 3 perfect notes. Nuton groaned. Even Wuity's better than me. Wuity blinked shyly and floated over to give Nuton a pat with its glowing star hand. Nuton slumped. I wish I could play like the piper in the story. You know, the one with the music so magical it made mice dance. Lola raised an eyebrow. Nuton, are you talking about the Pied Piper? His eyes sparkled. Maybe we could visit him, ask for a lesson. Wuity spun excitedly. Lola frowned. Do I even want to know what you're planning? Nuton grinned. Just a little story stroll. Lola sighed. Fine, but if this ends in dancing rats in my bed, I'm out. In a swish of stardust and floating melody, the trio appeared in the glowing curves of the Library of World. Shelves soared like spiraling towers, each aisle humming with its own tune. Books fluttered like sleepy butterflies. Lamps shaped like violins glowed above. Elwie, the gentle old robot librarian, floated down from a glimmering balcony. His glass dome sparkled like a moon. Nuton Lola Wuity, he said with a smile. Seeking a story tonight? Or a song? Nuton clutched his flute. Elwie, I want to learn from the Pied Piper. Just for one evening. Lola added quickly. We'd like to know more about the story. The real one. Elwie's smile deepened. Ah, then follow me. I'll show you how the melody began. Elwie guided them to a circle of cozy floor cushions beneath a mobile of bells and tiny flutes. With a tap of his wand finger, a great book opened on a golden pedestal. Golden pictures shimmered into the air. Once upon a time, Elwie began, in a town called Hamelin, there came a stranger. A man with a flute of polished wood and eyes like starlight. He was the Pied Piper. The images showed a town overrun by rats, chewed bread, squeaking chaos, frightened families. The town was drowning in rats. They nibbled through kitchens, scuttled over cribs. People were desperate. Elwie's tone shifted. The piper offered to help. A song, he said, in exchange for a promise. The mayor agreed to pay him. Soft, delicate notes filled the room. The image showed rats swaying, dancing in lines after the piper as he played through the cobbled streets down to the river. His tune carried every rat to the water. Peace returned. Then a pause. But when he came to collect his reward, the town's leaders laughed. It was a trick, they claimed. You deserve nothing. Elwie's voice grew quiet. The piper said not a word. That night he played again. This time only the children heard. Golden images shimmered of sleepy faces, tiny shoes on cobblestones. They followed him, smiling, barefoot, out of town, into the forest, then vanished. Some say into a glowing mountain. The page dimmed, only stars remained. All except one, Elwie said. A boy with a limp. He couldn't keep up. He remembered the music forever. Nuton blinked. But where did the kids go? No one ever knew, said Elwie gently. Not truly. The glowing images faded like dew. Nuton's brows furrowed. But the piper helped them, and the town lied. Why didn't anyone ask what the piper really wanted? Lola nodded. Maybe he didn't want gold. Maybe he just wanted to be seen. Elwie's gears hummed gently. Even the kindest songs can turn bitter when promises are broken. Nuton whispered, if the children are still out there, maybe we could find them. Wuity's star face glowed. Sparkle. Elwie bowed his shining head. There may still be a trail, but remember, entering a fading song can change the tune. Perfect! Nuton grinned. Let's rewrite the ending. Wuity zoomed in loops. Then step close, said Elwie. The story is ready. A book opened, glowing with soft golden light. Notes floated from the pages, twirling like fireflies. One by one, Nuton, Lola, and Wuity stepped inside. The moment trio stepped into the glowing swirl of the Pied Piper's story, the library vanished behind them like a sigh in the wind. They landed gently in a narrow cobblestone alley where every window was shuttered and every lantern flickered with tired light. The sky was the color of cooled candle wax, and the breeze smelled faintly of old wood and something lonely. Wuity blinked and sneezed a tiny poof of sparkles. Nuton looked around, adjusting his satchel. This doesn't look very musical, he whispered. The alley opened into a village square, not dirty or ruined, but quiet. Too quiet. There were flower boxes without flowers. Bicycles leaned against walls with no children nearby. A bakery sign swung in the wind, but no warm smell of buns or cakes greeted them. A single wooden flute rested on the fountain ledge, as if it had been placed there gently and then forgotten. The name on the old town sign was clear, Hamelin. They passed the toy shop, dark, the schoolhouse, empty. Only a faint hum filled the air, like someone had once been singing here but had stopped mid-note. From behind the shutters, some villagers peeked out with worried eyes. One older woman opened the door just a crack when Nuton waved politely. But when he asked about the piper, she only whispered, "Gone, like the others," and were not allowed to speak of it. And then the door closed again, gently but firmly. At the edge of the village was a stone wall covered in ivy. But when Wuity flew close, the ivy shimmered and pulled back, revealing a mural of glowing lines, almost like painted music. As Lola gently placed her hand on the wall, a soft glow began to flow through the vines, and a faint sound whispered through the air. A melody with no words, notes without singers. From the grass, a trail of soft blue crumbs. No, not crumbs, musical notes began to appear like stepping stones in the mist. They glowed faintly, leading away from the village and into the woods beyond. The children followed the trail beyond the last gate, where the trees began to lean inward as if listening. Birds didn't chirp. Even the leaves seemed to hush as they passed. But the trail of notes continued, dancing gently above the ground, guiding them through a forest wrapped in fog. Soon the trees began to shimmer faintly. Silver bark, lilac moss, golden roots threading across the path. It no longer looked like any forest they knew. It was like the edge of a dream. And there, at the very end of the trail, was a hill of velvet grass. On top of it stood a carved archway made from driftwood, old violin bows, and golden reeds. At its center, a wooden sign hung crookedly, carved with delicate letters, "To the place where children still laugh." Wuity blinked, tilting its little star head. The mist parted gently like a curtain, and a soft light spilled out. Music, distant but sweet, echoed from beyond the archway. Nuton stepped forward. "Come on," he said softly, gripping his flute tightly. "We're close now." And with that, the three friends crossed into the unseen world. Beyond the glowing gate, Nuton, Lola, and Wuity stepped into a dream wrapped in music. A gentle wind swayed flower lanterns on soft strings. Trees hummed low lullabies, and streams trickled in curvy patterns like sleepy silver ribbons. Dozens of children moved through the meadow like drifting dandelion seeds. Some painted clouds, others braided sunbeams into the grass. But everything felt a little too quiet. Their joy was soft, foggy, almost like they were half asleep. "They're happy, but not whole," Lola whispered. "Like the melody's missing," Nuton added. At the center stood a silver gazebo wrapped in vines shaped like music notes. The Pied Piper sat inside, staring at a flute that had lost its shine. "I brought them here," he said, "but I've lost the song that brings them home." He stood, eyes kind but tired. "It's scattered through the meadow," he said. "3 parts, 3 pieces of forgotten joy." The group followed a fluttering music note to a wide field lined with vine-covered fences. Behind each fence stood a first laugh plant, but they had wilted, slouching under drooping petals. The task was simple. Revive the plants by recreating a child's very first, silliest laugh. Each plant had a tiny tag: "Laughed at muddy socks," "Laughed when Dad sneezed into his cereal," "Laughed at a farting turtle balloon." Nuton's eyes lit up. "I got this." He stuffed leaves into his boots and danced like a sleepy chicken. Lola accidentally hiccuped mid-laugh, and Wuity, trying to help, zapped a mushroom and turned it into a sneezing cupcake. The first laugh bloomed back in color, then another, then another. With every belly giggle, a vine curled toward the sky and a glowing note floated into the air. Bright, golden, and free. It swirled toward the piper and tucked itself beside his flute. They reached a quiet hilltop where a patchwork quilt hovered gently in the air, made from squares of glowing memories. But many patches were dull, grayed out. A nearby loom whispered softly, "Stitch what makes a home." Nuton and Lola each held a thread made of light. Lola paused. "Home is when someone waits for you to come back." Nuton gently whispered, "Home is soup that smells like love." Wuity floated over and added a glowing square of a drawing. Nuton and Lola, hugging beneath a starry sky. Each patch glowed warmer. Then came one more memory. A child's favorite bedtime story, told by a tired parent who always read the last line with a kiss. That one made the whole quilt lift, swirl, and a second music note shimmered toward the piper. A gently glowing bridge hovered over a stream of slow-moving music. But this bridge had no planks, just gaps where emotions hummed quietly. A sign read, "Each truth placed with kindness becomes a step forward." Nuton stepped up. "I rushed my flute lessons. I just wanted to be the best, not the kindest." A plank appeared. Lola followed. "I forget to see how hard you're trying sometimes. I just want you to do your best." Another plank. Wuity offered a soft glitter pop and dropped a tiny memory. A moment it had interrupted a lullaby, but learned to listen after. Plank by glowing plank, they crossed. At the final step, a breeze danced upward, and the final music note floated from the bridge to the piper's flute. Back at the gazebo, the 3 golden notes curled like ribbon around the piper's flute. he lifted it to his lips. This time, the song flowed. It was a lullaby that shimmered with joy and longing. The meadow brightened, children blinked, and smiled, truly smiled. And high above, a new arch appeared, strung with starlight. The way home is through promises kept. The final note drifted through the misty meadow like a feather caught on moonlight. The children, each holding a memory stitched by song, looked up, eyes soft with joy. I remember my mom's sunflower apron, said a girl with freckles. And my grandpa's story voice, whispered a boy. Their smiles returned. The piper stood still, calm, gentle. It's your choice, he said softly. Stay in the dream or return to the world that missed you. The children nodded, holding hands. Nuton watched, heart warm and wide. They're going home, he whispered. Down in Hamelin, storm clouds had gathered, but not from rain. Guilt hung heavy in the air. The mayor sat on the steps of the town hall, clinging to a dusty sketch of the village playground. Villagers wandered with empty eyes. Mothers peered through windows. Fathers kept lamps burning all night, just in case. And then the sky bloomed with stars. A glowing bridge stretched from the clouds to the town square. Laughter, footsteps, music. The children were returning, dancing down beams of starlight, arms full of wonder. A hush swept through the village. Then gasps, for the piper was walking behind them, flute in hand, head held high. The mayor stumbled forward, face pale. In his hands were a few coins, some bent, others caked in soil, gathered from every corner of the village. Behind him, other villagers offered tiny trinkets, flowers, and whispered pleas. We were afraid, the mayor choked. We didn't know what you wanted. We thought it was money. We were wrong. Please, forgive us. The piper looked down at the rusted coins and smiled. I never wanted your gold, he said, voice soft as song. I wanted your children to have more than chores and empty plates. I wanted them to laugh, to learn, to be children. A silence followed, heavy and still. Then a sob and another. One by one, the villagers lowered their heads. Some dropped to their knees. And then the children ran forward, sharing stories of magical tea parties, whispering trees, cloud swings, and songs that helped them dream. It was like a hug from the stars. One boy said, eyes sparkling. Lola stepped beside the piper, holding the memory quilt in her arms. The stitched memories shimmered in the village light. This is what the children remember, she said gently. Now it's your turn to remember them. Then, with no warning, the piper raised his flute. He played a melody so rich and warm it sounded like sunlight blooming. The clouds lifted, the square glowed. Lamps flickered on, windows opened wide, and laughter rose from the cobbled streets. Nuton blinked. Is it just me? Or does everything feel brighter? It's not just you, Lola whispered. Even the buildings looked newer, painted in hope. The villagers joined hands, children twirled, and the piper stood in the center, a quiet smile glowing on his face. That night, by the sleepy riverside, the piper sat with Nuton, a silver flute resting across his lap. I used to think magic only came from music, he said, but I learned it comes from understanding. He placed a small glowing flute in Nuton's hands. This one is yours, he said, but it will only sing when your heart is listening. Nuton clutched it close, eyes wide with wonder. I'll use it right, he promised, like you do. The piper nodded. Then the song will never fade. With Wuity spinning sleepy spirals in the air, the stars above the town blinked gently. Lola gave the piper a small bow. Thank you for letting us learn your song. You'll write your own someday, he replied. The library book shimmered, golden light curling around them. And as the music faded behind, Elwie's voice whispered through the wind. Every story finds its rhythm, but the truest songs begin in kindness. In a blink of starlight, they were gone. The world faded in golden swirls, like petals on a breeze. When Nuton opened his eyes, he was back, curled under his cozy blanket, the soft hum of his nightlight blinking gently beside him. Lola was already in her bed, a peaceful look on her face. Wuity floated above, doing a slow, sleepy spin, its glow dim and content. In Nuton's hands, the silver flute, still warm. He smiled, then whispered, I don't need magic to be special. I just need to listen. He placed the flute beside his pillow and tucked in tighter, feeling proud, peaceful, and just the tiniest bit sleepy. The stars outside twinkled like soft lullabies, and the wind that whispered through the window didn't carry secrets tonight, just calm, cool comfort. Nuton's fingers curled around his blanket as the melody of the piper's final song echoed in his memory. A song about second chances, about joy in small places, and about promises kept, not with gold, but with love. So now, as your eyelids grow heavy and your breath slows to the rhythm of the stars, Remember, music from the heart can lead the way. Kindness can fix what fear breaks, and sometimes a little boy's wish to learn can bring an entire village back to joy. Good night, little piper. May your dreams be full of gentle songs, dancing lights, and friends who follow your melody all the way to morning.